Well, hello everyone, and it's Miss Liz. That's right, Miss Liz is here tonight with you. It's evening tea. I haven't done many evening teas, but this is worth this evening tea. So tonight in the studio, I'm joined with Aime Hutton, and she is an incredible lady. So I'm just going to read a little bit about her bio, and then she's going to get into all the good stuff and give us some empowerment inch by inch, because that's what she does. So Aime Hutton is hailing from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Aime has 20 years experience in the field of working with youths and dealing with bullying and abuse in elementary school. She was severely teased and bullied between grades 3 and 8, including including being physically assaulted in grade 7 by a group of older girls in the girls' locker room in high school. A teacher used his powers, position, and authority to exclude and tear her down instead of supporting and lifting her up to succeed. As past leadership has failed her throughout her school years, she has now turned her experiences and attention to helping educators. As a youth diversity advisor and international speaker facilitator, Aime is in the process of designing a corporate training for educators called the Four Pillars for Facilitating Safe Spaces for Young Female Students in Schools. Aime also provides workshops and talks to juniors and senior high school students on the importance of flattering the curves of bullying. Aime sits on the board of National Network for Mental Health Alliance, representing the Province of Alberta, and is a member of the Gender and Sexual Diversity Advisory Board with Calgary Police Services. If you'd like to know more about her, check out her bio on Miss Liz's Tea Times page. And welcome, Aime. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello. Thank you. Yes, and thank you for the late afternoon, early evening tea time. As my cat just ran spazzy, like literally around. It was awesome. So hello.
Yeah, we have all different time zones. We're all over the place, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's evening here, and it's mid-evening where you
Yeah, it's
are, right?
late afternoon. It's just after 5 o'clock here. So
Yeah. So
and
how did you, Aime, get involved in the empowerment? Like, what besides what happened with you as a child, what more inspires you to get into that field?
well, because of what I went through in elementary school, it was 6 years. Like it was 6 years of being called names like stupid, ugly, dumb, retarded, and a loser, and many more names. And, I started to believe that. I started to believe I was those names and more. And then when I was physically assaulted in grade 7 in the locker room, like, can we put a girl down any more than she already is? And I had really low self esteem and really low self confidence. And, I had no voice. I couldn't speak up. I couldn't say what was really going on at school. And, the teachers love teachers. Going to put that out there right now. I love teachers and they are amazing. However, back in the 1980s, early 90s, when all this was taking place, the teachers weren't as equipped as they are today to help with bullying and being mindful of a student's emotional and social well-being and their health, right? So that's really why I started to do what I do. And the kicker was, and this was realized only just earlier this year when I was in a professional speaking program, that a teacher in my high school, he actually did use his authority and his position and power to like bring me down and to say to me, you're not going to do it. You're not going to pass. So the story there is I was in grade 12 and I was taking an OAC credit biology course and in Ontario. And I was noticing I was having some problems the first couple of days of school. So in biology, so I went to the teacher for help and he looked at me and he's like, Aime, you're left-handed. You'll never pass my class. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I was like, well, what about a tutor or, somebody else who can help me? And his answer was no. And I felt like I was in between a rock and a hard place because he was also the director of the science department in my high school. So I had no other, I felt at that time, no other teacher I could go to for help. So during the whole semester, I sat quiet and didn't say a word until the very end when it was the unit of anatomy and physiology. And because of my interest in being a lifeguard, and I was a swim instructor and that whole area, I had some ideas and some knowledge around anatomy and physiology of the human body. So I actually started raising my hand again and getting the answers correctly. And the teacher stopped at that time and he looked over at me and he said, in front of everybody, he's like, "Where did you come from?" And I thought to myself, I didn't say this out loud, but I thought it. I'm like, "Sir, I've been here this entire time and you just haven't seen me."
Wow.
So, exactly. So helping educators on empowering their students, and then also I've done talks to groups of girls in high school, in junior high, or girl guides and what have you, on, you know what, here's some really simple tools on communication and how to, like, yeah, as my business name is Inch by Inch Empowerment, that inch by inch and step by step, things will get better. If I was able to overcome the 6 years of bullying plus being physically assaulted and then being told I wasn't going to pass a class because I was left-handed, then what girls are going through today, they can get through. And every 7 minutes on the school ground across Canada, in every school, a child's experiencing bullying. And I heard someone say recently that, oh, the teachers must be happy that they're all doing online school because the bullying has stopped. And I looked at her and I'm like, no, sorry to say that. However, it is roughly, the stat I read recently is approximately 43%, might be even 45% of high school girl students have experienced cyber harassment or cyberbullying from peers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it hasn't stopped. So that's why I do what I do.
So what have you learned about yourself by getting into this field, Amy?
I've learned that through this whole journey, through this whole process, that my voice does matter and what I have to say does matter. And also that what I am passing on to others is important and needs to be heard. And I do know what I'm talking about because I've lived it.
Well, that's right. You have that life experience, right? And I say it all the time when I do my tea times. If you don't live it, you don't know it. You know, you might be speaking from books or education, but you're not speaking from life experience. And in order to make a difference in anyone's life, I feel that life experience will give you more than book experience.
Yes, I totally agree.
So what is your biggest challenge out there, like with empowering women nowadays?
My biggest challenge or my biggest opportunity is actually, because I'm targeting schools, it's getting through the gatekeeper, as I call it, to get to the right person to speak to get to the principal or the, the head of the guidance department or the student. Like, maybe they have, I know here in Calgary, we have school resource officers in the high schools for sure, and maybe for the junior high schools. And getting through to them to say, hey, look, how can I support you? Here's here's a program I've developed or I'm developing. And can we sit down and have a conversation? Because something was brought to my attention earlier this year. And I know for me in university, now that story is a whole other different story about being in an abusive relationship. In my university, luckily we had what it's called like a women's center. And I know the University of Calgary has one too. However, I found out recently that not all universities or colleges across Canada have it. And what I would love to see is a safe space for girls in junior high or senior high to come to get that support, to say, hey, I was just attacked in a locker room, or a teacher told me I wasn't going to pass his class. And don't get me wrong, Liz, like anyone who's listening, who is a guidance counselor, like I know in my high school, we had amazing guidance counselors. I had 2 of them that were my swim coaches in high school, and they were amazing. And they worked with us on, getting into university or academic time kind of things. They weren't as well versed, my opinion, in how do we help a student who was just assaulted, or how do we help a student who's being bullied in the classroom by a peer or by a teacher? Because students don't want to say, hey, yeah, the teacher just said I'm gonna fail his class.
Yeah. So you go like right into the schools, right?
That's my plan of approach, is going into the school. Yes.
And you just wrote a book, I believe, that came out in the spring, or was it the summer you had a book come out?
I've been a part of many books, and I've written an ebook, and I compiled my own book. So trying to do my best to think. So most recently, I wrote a foreword for my friend Kim LaMontagne, and her book was "It's Okay Not to Be Okay," and
That's the book I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's stories about overcoming mental illness or living with mental illness, and I shared my story of living with PTSD and anxiety, and some tools and tips on living with those diagnoses. And then the whole itself was a collection of stories. And my friend Kim, who put the book together, she's a person who lives with alcohol disorder.
Okay.
And so she shares her story and how she overcame that as a corporate executive, or a woman working in the corporate world at a high level as a salesperson. And she was, quote unquote, a high functioning alcoholic at that point, and how she dealt with it. So it's a pretty cool book that I was very honored to be a part of and write the foreword for. And that's what I do. If others are inviting me to be a part of a book, I know there's different models on how to be an author in a book. And what I'm more leaning towards now is actually writing a foreword for somebody, is writing their foreword for them, because a part of my bio that is just on my website is that I've been in many books, and I've lost count, honestly, but I say the number 5, that I'm a 5-time international best-selling author compiler. So I've been there, done that a lot, and I'm now at the point where I feel I will write your foreword for your book if it aligns with my mission and vision and values, and go forward. And I'm also working on my book very slowly, and it is called "Opening My Door to Living My Real Brave Self." And
I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be a self-help memoir.
I love it.
And it's my story, all parts of it, from birth until present day. And a friend of mine in Florida, we had a call one day, and she's like, yeah, you can write a memoir. There's many memoirs out there, and they're all amazing. However, what if you were to twist it and make it more a self-help memoir? I'm like, oh, I like that idea. So that is a bit of a different genre, because yes, it's my story, but then there's teaching bits throughout.
I like that. I'm always a self-help book. Like when I go to chapters or something like that, or Kohl's, and I'm always looking in the self-help. Like I'm always like, can you direct me to self-help? I'm like, I don't need that much help, but can you help me?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
And I get that, right? Because I've written in a couple books as well, and I've written with others where I've gotten to the point where now I think I'm ready to write my own. But it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
But I really enjoy writing with others, because then I get to read their stories along with mine, right? So I'm not so alone. I feel like I'm in a group, right?
Yeah.
So what tools and tips do you give to the young ladies out there? Like when you go into the schools, like
Yeah. So one piece of information I love to share is all about communication and respectful and conflict management type of communication. And it's the word SALT.
Oh,
SALT. And it stands for stop, ask, listen, talk.
stop,
So,
ask, listen, talk.
yeah. So, for example, if someone says your shoes are ugly, or your sweater's ugly, or whatever, stop what you're doing. Like, put the pen down, put the book down, whatever. Stop what you're doing. Look at them. Make eye contact. Ask a question. Ask, why do you think my sweater's ugly? Or why do you think my shoes are ugly? And then pause and listen. Listen to their response and then talk. Have a dialogue, have a conversation to diffuse the situation. Because something I heard a while ago, and it's true, and it's that hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
So for young high school, junior high students, girls, to hear that hurt people, it kind of clicks.
Okay.
And it also clicks with their teachers.
Well, we don't look at teachers as, people that can hurt us. We look at them as protectors, but sometimes they are the ones who hurt us as well, right? Like you growing up in school, the teachers didn't protect you,
Yeah.
They didn't take your word for it. Instead, they added salt to the water, right? So,
Yeah. And like thinking back to when I was in the girls' locker room in grade 7 and was like grabbed my bra strap and flung around the room, and then I went flying into the locker, the teacher came in and I was red in the face and crying, and I couldn't tell you who did it because they grabbed me from the behind, like from behind me. And the teacher just looked at me and didn't say, like, didn't ask what happened, didn't say, like, she didn't say anything that could support me. And I was too afraid to say anything because I was afraid of getting hurt more.
well, 20 years ago, bullying wasn't so out there either, right? It was hush, hush, get over it,
Yeah, it
You're
was
you're
part of life.
overreacting, like getting.
Yeah, it was part of school.
Mm-hmm. It was.
However, yeah, and that's sad. Like there's many adult women and some men, but I mostly interact with women that have said, yeah, I was also bullied as a kid. And after I share my story or why I do what I do as well, people say, where were you when I was in grade 5? And I was like, I was being called these names and more.
So do you feel that the rate of bullying is rising or is it decreasing?
My opinion, it's rising.
Me too. I believe that.
Yeah, because there's the whole bit of cyber and technology, and luckily, in some strange way, luckily I could leave school at 3:30 in elementary school, leave school at 3:30 and go home. And I didn't have a cell phone. We didn't have a laptop. We had desktop, I think, when I was in high school at some point. But yeah, it's a different world these days.
It is. So how do we break that? Like as women who want to see change in the world and we want to empower others, not only women but men as well. Like boys too suffer, right?
Yep.
And how do we as role models make a difference?
We make a difference by standing in our truth, by speaking our truth, by saying if we see something going on that's wrong, to actually speak up and say, hey, wait a minute, that shouldn't be happening. We can do it by, especially if you have a daughter or you work with girls, it's, bring in the aspect of history. Like let's look at women in Canada and Canadian history and do some research. I know when I was in Girl Guides, that was actually one thing we did, was look up different women in history, and other women in Canada who were, when they were younger, were Girl Guides. For example, two women that are coming to my mind. Roberta Bondar, who was the first Canadian woman in space. She was
Wow.
a former Girl Guide. And so I grew up in Ontario, and that's where I think you are right now, right, Liz?
That's where I am.
You are. So do you
That's
remember?
so white.
Yeah. So do you remember watching City TV when it was City TV? And there was a lady who was all about fashion, Deanie Petty.
Yes.
She was a former Girl Guide.
No way.
Yeah. And
Wow.
there's many other Canadian women that, yeah, it might make sense when you see who it is. And there's others that I'm like, really, Deanie Petty was a Girl Guide? What? Like, really? Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's others that are coming to mind. I think a bit more in the music world. I have to double check my notes somewhere. I have them, but I think Feist was
Wow.
a Girl Guide, and maybe even Celine Dion maybe was a Girl Guide. So just
We're gonna have to check this out and put this into the comments after. Like, who do you guys think a Girl Guide was in Canada? Right? You might just be surprised because,
yeah,
who knows? Right? Maybe Celine Dion was a Girl Guide.
Yeah. So it's just looking at the history of women in Canada, because we're Canadian,
Yeah.
and seeing what they've done. Like here in Calgary and in Alberta, actually it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yes. Yesterday was Person's Day, where 91 years ago, I think, the government of Canada decided that women are persons. And it was a act that, or a law that was initiated or started here in Alberta, but it went across Canada.
Oh, I'll have to look that up because
Yeah.
I'm really interested about that now.
Yeah, look at the famous five. I don't remember all of them, but Nellie McClung was one. Emily Murphy. I forget. There's five. There's five women that got the right to vote for Canadian women 9 years ago.
See, we're giving you empowerment in French, giving you a history lesson at the same time.
Yeah.
So before the show, we talked a little bit about your getaway for your birthday, and you went to this amazing location. And of course, tea was involved. So could you share a little bit about what tea means to you?
Tea. I'm actually, yes. So last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess now, was my birthday, and October 6th. And I went to Canmore, Alberta, which is a little over an hour from Calgary, west. And I drove out to the mountains, and I stayed in this beautiful boutique inn called the Georgetown Inn. And the rooms, pre-COVID, it was automatic, but now with COVID happening, you have to request it. But they will bring to you a tea set, complete with the teapot and the 2 cups and different kinds of tea. And they used to bring it every day. Like they would bring you new ones every day with biscuits, shortbread. Now, though, they're not able to. So what I did was I said, hey, I'm coming out for my birthday. B, on your website, I'm seeing all these pictures of teapots and tea sets and stuff. Can we figure something out because of COVID? And they said, yeah, we will put a tea set in your room that you can use for the duration. And if you need supplies, just let us know and we can get you that. Just come down to the front desk. Now, this hotel, as I said, it's a boutique inn. I think there's only 20 rooms in this inn, so it's nice and small. And I was in a king-size bed all to myself. I had a clawfoot soaker tub that I could use that was in the room with where the tea was, and also an electric fireplace. So it was very quaint, it was big but cozy, and cozy because there was like 2 areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Georgetown Inn pub, or the Georgetown pub, I think it might be called, it's attached to the hotel. They had breakfast, they had the whole full meal deal. And because it was my birthday, they actually gifted me 2 vouchers for breakfast.
Oh, well, look at you.
Yeah, so I got 2 breakfasts out of them as well. And beautiful food. And if you're an English or British person who loves all those things like I do, go to their pub, because on the first night I had bangers and mash in Yorkshire pudding.
Oh,
On my birthday was their fish and chips night, and they're actually award-winning in the Bow Valley for their fish and chips. So I had fish and chips with sticky toffee pudding, which
oh
was
my goodness.
amazing for dinner on Tuesday. And my final dinner on Wednesday night 2 weeks ago was, again, they're special, but I was all in. It was a open-faced steak sandwich with chips.
Oh, wow.
So beautiful food, beautiful people. The breakfast I had was a combination between sweet and savory. So my breakfast, since I showed you what my dinners were, my breakfasts, the first morning, my birthday morning, I had, oh, I forget what they called it, but what it was 2 big pieces of French toast stuffed with Nutella,
Oh,
a berry compote on top, and whipped cream.
oh my goodness, that sounds so yummy.
It was very yummy, and then hash browns, and I had a side of bacon with tea.
Of course, the bacon, right?
With
Can't do it without bacon. We're from Canada. We need our bacon.
bacon, and I dipped it in maple syrup, so it was like even better.
Yeah.
And then the second morning for breakfast again was a sweet breakfast, and it was pancakes this time I chose, but it was like they had a drizzle sauce, or like a sauce instead of maple syrup. You could have it, but I just asked for more of this other sauce, and it was like a cream cheese cinnamon concoction
Oh,
you spread all over the pancakes.
now that sounds yummy.
Yeah, and I think the pancakes also were infused with cinnamon as well, so it's kind of like cinnamon bun in a way.
Oh,
Pancakes. Yeah, it was really good.
I've
Again,
always wanted to try that. Make cinnamon pancakes with a good cup of tea in the morning. I've always wanted to try it. Maybe I'll
yeah,
give that a try.
yeah. And then my last morning there, I had because I had the sweet breakfast. So I'm like, okay, I need to have like a savory breakfast. So I had the normal, like not normal, but traditional, more like eggs, bacon, toast, and so on. But it was all really yummy. And in the room, as I said, there was an electric fireplace, and there was 2 sitting chairs. They were kind of like queen mum chairs, I call them, like a bit bigger. They weren't full high back, but they were pretty high with the bits coming out of the side, and that's what I call the queen mum chairs. And the tea set, I sat down by the fireplace every morning and every evening, and I did my gratitude journal there, or my
Oh,
morning
wow.
routine journal, because I have 2 journals, one for evening, one for morning. And so writing in those and just really taking it in. And in the room I was staying in, I don't remember if there was a TV. Yeah, there was a TV, but I didn't use it. Yet there was a writing desk, like an authentic looking writing desk, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah, the Georgetown Inn in Canmore, I highly recommend it. I'm not getting any kickback from talking about them. They are
No
amazing.
endorsements going on here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little inn, and they look after their guests amazingly. And on my birthday, I hiked up a little, well, it wasn't a little mountain, but I hiked up a trail that's called Grassy Lakes Trail. And at the top of the trail, there were 2 what they call lakes, and they were mountain lakes, glacier fed lakes. To me, because coming from Ontario, they were ponds. Like, they weren't lakes, they were ponds. However, like, you could see the bottom, and it was a blue green, like the clearest blue and green that you could ever imagine. And it was just beautiful to sit there and just reflect on my birthday and give gratitude and give thanks for being on planet Earth. Because as I mentioned, my self-help memoir that I'm working on, is from like birth until present day. And my birth story, if people don't know, is that in 1976, I was born at 26 weeks gestation. I was 1 pound, 12 ounces, and given 24 hours to live.
Wow. And look at you here today with us.
Yeah.
Shining, and you're amazing, Amy. Like, you've really come a long way, and you've changed a lot of lives. And one thing I was taking in when you were sharing about your birthday was the nature, the writing, the tea, the journaling. Do you find that people that have been bullied or people that live with mental health turn to nature?
That's one of the coping strategies, yes, for many. I know it's one for me, and I recommend it to others, is go for a walk. Even if it's an urban walk and you can find like a little park with like a playground swing and you can just sit and swing on the swing for a couple of minutes and just, breathe. And there's a favorite spot I have, well, many favorite spots in the city, but I have a favorite tree that I like to go to. And I walk, and it's right on the river. So Calgary, if you're not familiar with it, Calgary actually has 2 rivers in the city. And so one is the Elbow River and one's the Bow River. And I went and I sat by the Elbow River under my tree, and I can just sit there. Granted, right now we have snow. So
You have snow?
we
You
have
keep
snow.
it. I'm more than enough. I don't need any snow.
Yeah, I won't be sitting under my tree anytime soon. However, just even to walk by it just brings me joy. And yeah, so coping techniques with people, for people who maybe live with mental health or mental illness, to go into nature, take a breath, put the darn cell phone or tablet or whatever down.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I was very conscious of actually when I was in Canmore in the mountains. Like, yes, I was taking pictures and things, yet I put the phone down for a good 10, 15 minutes and just sat.
Yeah.
And just took it all in. Another coping strategy or coping technique is, I call it a 3-point question. And what are 3 things I can see directly in front of me? What are 3 things I can feel? And what are 3 things I know to be true?
Oh.
So, for example, 3 things I can see. I can see out my window in the condominiums across the way. I can see my curtains that are hanging on the window, and I can see my light that's sitting behind my computer. 3 things I can feel. I can feel my fingers on my tea mug. I can feel my fingers on a stack of books over here off camera, and I can also feel my feet on the floor. What are 3 things I know to be true? I know I'm in Calgary. I know the sky is blue, and I know my cat is black. So it's 3 simple, like really, really simple things that help ground you down and bring you back into center. And it's in the other room. I'm in a book study right now, a book club, and we're reading a story, or a true story, called The Choice, and it's by Dr. Edith Edgar,
Okay.
and she's actually a Holocaust survivor. And she published her book when she was in her 90s,
Oh,
sharing
I've
her
heard
story.
about her. Yeah.
Yeah, and she talks about, if I survive today, I'll be free tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the other quote she says a lot in the book is, I am here, this is now. And that really helps. When I heard that or read that, I was like, wow, yeah, that helps with the anxiety, as I am here and this is now.
So
So
the
to bring
grounding, right? Come back to it.
bring me back to now, because PTSD, that is the fear of things in the past.
Yeah.
And anxiety is things afraid of in the future. So when you live with both, it's a great kettle of fish to be in.
Oh God. Yeah, it's a good kettle, all right.
Yeah, it's a great kettle to be in. So those are just some things that I use and take away. And, you know, an idea I wanted to share to parents who maybe are having they feel something's going on with their child. What I heard someone do, and it worked for them, was they actually got a journal and they would write back and forth to each other.
Oh,
And it was like a secret journal that only mom and child knew about, and they could write back and forth. It's almost like sharing a secret, but with somebody else.
and they're writing, so it's actually empowering writing.
Yeah.
I've heard that many times, because when we write it, we see it, right? And then if we read it out loud, then we inject it back in, and we can go with the emotions and the understanding of how we felt when we wrote that, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. And many, many years ago, the first book I was a part of, the editor / compiler who put it together, she was like, Aime, I want you to write out your story by hand. And now, because I'm left-handed, I actually get an added perk, bonus, boost, is that because our heart is on our left side. So my words are coming directly from my heart, out my hand, into the pen, onto the paper,
Wow.
and writing that way. So a lot of the time when I'm working on a blog post, and that's how I'm doing my self-help memoir tidbit. Here's an idea: is start just writing a blog, and that's what I'm doing. I'm writing a blog slowly of my story, and then those blogs can shift and turn into my self-help memoir, because at least my story will be written, and then all I have to do is piece it together and add in the self-help parts or the teaching points, and I'm good.
Well, it's like putting the puzzle together, right?
Yeah.
You're creating the pieces, and then you're going to put them together
Yeah.
to make the puzzle.
Yeah. So I hope that has helped somebody listening and watching. And I see somebody was watching. I don't know if they're still watching.
Yeah, Lorenzo popped in and said hi. He's in the studio on that, and we have a couple people watching on the watch party on that. The thing with some of the subjects that we talk about on Tea Time, some of them are a little heavy for some people, and some of them are eye-opening, because we give them. I bring guests on that will give you tips to look within and help yourself. My guests don't have the magic wand and can fix you. All of these guests that come on Tea Time actually give you tools to look within yourself and to work on yourself. So like Aime has shared, like the SALT and the three steps, in that: 3 things you see, 3 things you feel, and 3 things you believe to be true, right?
That you know to be true.
That you know to be true. And then I'm over here like a white little Casper ghost tonight. I'm not sure what's going on, but I need some sun. Maybe that snow is coming, and I know it's coming, so I'm getting prepared. I'm all white and freezing cold over here. But tea time is a place for us to just relax and enjoy a cup of tea. And I see Aime is sipping on her tea, and I'm sipping on mine. And I want people to just sit back and reflect on life. And, if the current isn't going the way that you want it to go in life, just look at that current, and you can move it at any time. And if you see something that bothers you and you want to make a change, step up. And that's what me and Aime have done. She has gone through some things in life, and I have, and we're both empowering people to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're not saying that our lives were easy, but we're not staying in that hardship. We're actually opening doors for others. So Aime, is there any last final words you would like to share with anybody out there?
There's so much. So what's coming to mind is also, a whole other tea time topic. But it's being okay with being yourself. And earlier today, I was in a podcast that I pre-recorded and it dropped today by the Great Canadian Woman. And the podcast title was, I forget the title, actually, it slipped my mind, but it's my story. That's weird. It's my story of coming out as being attracted to women at age 43, which I was up until October 6th. So it's my story of accepting myself as I am and being okay with who I am and going through that. So my last bit of wisdom I want to share is that to anyone watching, listening here live or on the replay that might be experiencing something similar, I see you, I hear you, I thank you, and you're not alone.
I really like that you have passed that message on, because as a child, I needed to hear those things. So I'm hoping that somebody out there who's watching this broadcast right now or watching the replay, that you know that you are seen and heard. And you do make a difference, and your voice does make a difference. So Aime, I want to really thank you for joining me tonight in the studio. I really am amazed on how far you have come. I'm watching you, and I want to get that book, the one that I was like, what book were you in? I really want to get that book, because I love reading other people's stories.
Yeah. It's Okay Not to Be Okay is pretty sure it's still available on Amazon. And I think Kim, because of COVID, the ebook, she's brought that down to 99 cents.
Oh, wow. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's Okay Not to Be Okay by Kim LaMontagne. I wrote her forward. So yeah, go get it and read some really inspirational stories.
So what I'm going to do after we close up the tea time, I'm going to get you to send me all of that stuff, the information for the books that you've all been in. Anything, if anybody wants to reach out to you, have you on their podcast as well. I have a few sisters, Gem Sisters, that have a few podcasts that are looking for empowering women. So for sure.
I love being on podcasts, by the way, anyone out there. We need to work with scheduling and making sure it'll work for both of us. However, I love sharing story. I love sharing a message to empower, especially teachers and principals, and sharing why it's so important to flatten the curve of bullying, and it is still happening in schools. And just to share my story, because remember the editor I said who told me about writing my story out by hand? She said to me years ago now, this is back in like 2012, sorry, 2012. She's like, Aime, you never know who you're going to help by sharing your story.
And that is so true.
Yeah. So I would love to be on people's podcasts, men, women, interviewers.
She's ready for you.
Not picking in that respect. Non-binary, like anyone who has a podcast who feels I would be a good fit, I would love to be on their show.
And again, thank you so much, Aime, for joining me tonight on Tea Time. And we're going to close up Tea Time with Miss Liz, and then I will see you on the 23rd with Dasher Charles for Survivor Scholars. She'll be on and speaking about all of her amazing work that she's done, and she's just received her honorary doctorate as well. So we'll be talking about all of that on the next Tea Time. So thank you, Aime. And we're going to close Tea Time up with Miss Liz, and I'll see you then.
Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah, Miss Liz, tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, tune in to Miss Liz, tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Thank you for joining me, Miss Liz. for tea time, making a difference, one cup of tea at a time.